Hello there, folks. My name is Spooks, and I saw If, and I surprisingly really liked it. Now, going into this movie, I honestly wasn't expecting much. The movie didn't look horrible or anything, but it did look pretty generic, like a generic by the numbers kids movie, nothing really grabbed me, nothing really said, yeah, this looks like a winner here. It just looked pretty by the numbers, typical family fare for me. But to my surprise, I actually quite enjoyed this movie. It's not great by any means, I don't even think it'll be in my top 10 of the year, but it was a pretty sweet, charming little family film. I was pleasantly surprised by this. At its core, the film is about how, despite how everybody grows up and becomes depressed, sad adults, we all still have that inner child inside all of us, and I think it's a really strong message that I think will hit harder for adults, but I also think kids can appreciate too, and I think the message here is really executed well, and once again, it's a very strong message that I think the film really sells very well and strongly. The film is also just so sweet and good-natured. John Krasinski has stated in many interviews that he was inspired by a lot of the family films he watched, like Spielberg movies and Pixar films, and you can definitely see that inspiration carried in the film. It's very whimsical, it's very easygoing, and takes a simple idea or premise or feeling, if you know what I mean, and expands upon it with its potential, and I think it's really done well here. They really did a good job with some of the world building with the imaginary friends and how they operate here. Speaking of the imaginary friends, I love the designs and the looks of these imaginary friends. I thought they were all very creative with their designs, and they all really blend well with the world. They're all animated wonderfully, and some of them were really standouts. I liked Blue, played by Steve Carell. I thought he was very funny. The one played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I really liked her character. I didn't think she would be as big or important as a character given the trailers, but she does a lot more than I was expecting, and what they do with her I thought was very sweet and heartfelt. But my favorite imaginary friend here was, I believe his name is Cosmo. He's played by Christopher Milani, who many of you probably know from the other imaginary friend show, Happy on Sci-Fi. He was hilarious. Every time he was on screen, I could not stop laughing. They really brought something here with that character. I loved it every time he was on. But as for the human characters, I thought they were also very strong and very likable. Kaylee Fleming is a star. She has a bright future ahead of herself. She did a great job, and I loved what they did with her character as she's going through this tough time and how she sees these imaginary friends. I thought that was really well done, and she plays off very well against Ryan Reynolds, who is more of the straight man here. He's not doing his usual wacky Deadpool or Free Guy bit. He's definitely more of a straight man here, and they play off of each other very well. I think Ryan Reynolds did a great job, and they do something with his character near the end. You can kind of see it coming, but it still warms your heart at the end. It was expected, but it still warmed my heart, if you know what I mean, and I liked seeing the two of them together. I thought they were very strong, likable characters. This movie's also really funny. I laughed a lot. You obviously already heard me talking about how hilarious the Cosmo character was, but a lot of the other jokes in the movie were also really funny with how the imaginary friends interact with the real world, just the banter between Ryan Reynolds and Kaylee Fleming, or even some of the typical kids movie slapstick I thought was all pretty funny. It's not laugh out loud hilarious like The Fall Guy, but it does have some really funny jokes that did make me laugh. And because of its sweet nature and emotional heart, there is a very sweet, touching moment at the end that actually got me to cry. I don't know how Jim did it, but he was able to get me to tear up at the end. So there was that. Expect a pretty sad, emotional ending with this movie. But unfortunately, I do have some problems with this movie. The first, I do have some issues with the story. Now, it's not a bad story by any means. I was never bored or uninterested with it, but I do think it does meander a bit, and the pacing slows down a bit too much for my liking. I think they could have, rushed things along at certain points to make the pacing a bit better, and make it feel as if it wasn't meandering as much. I also think they could have done a bit more with the imaginary friends. We mainly focus on the two main ones, the Steve Carell one and the Phoebe Waller-Bridge one, as the other ones are pretty much just cameos. They have a couple lines here and there, which sucks because I liked a lot of their designs and I wanted to hear more about their backstory, and I wish they could have done a bit more in the movie. And also, I think there's some problems with the world building. I like some of it, but there are other times where it's a bit questionable. I think they could have fixed some of the world building, like how these imaginary friends interact and what are the rules for these creatures, and I think they could have polished that up a bit to make it work a bit better. But otherwise, I really liked If. This was a pleasant surprise for me. Again, it's not a great movie. I'm not gonna rush out to go and see it again, but as a simple little kids movie, I'd say go check it out. It's got a lot of heart. It's really funny. The animation and characters are very solid, and it's just a very sweet, emotional, solid little kids movie that I think both adults and kids are gonna like. Maybe adults will get a bit more out of this than the kids, but I still think kids are gonna really like this movie. If you are interested and you liked the trailers, or you're just curious and you want to at least give it a chance, I'd say go check it out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by this. I definitely recommend it. And those were my thoughts on If. What did you all think of it? If you've seen it, did you like it? Did you hate it? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links at the end of the video. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.